Good afternoon, guys. Hope you're well. Nice to have seen some of you this morning on our deliveries. Lovely day for it today. I hope you've all had a great day gardening or whatever else you've been up to. As we chatted about earlier in the week, today we're going to have a little tasting of two Sauvignon Blancs. Both are available in the bar and show different characteristics of the grape, and will hopefully show you how terroir or landscape, geography, climate, and weather, etc. can affect a grape and its taste being the same grape. So first off, we're going to start with our Sancerre today. The Sancerre that I have is the Domaine Franck Millet. Sorry, it's a bit sunny in here, but this is the one I've got. This is the one we do in the bar. There's a couple of you I know that have got a different one from the bar again, but from the reserve list. So don't worry about that. It's similar enough that this will make sense to you as well. There may be some very slight differences in the complexity of the wines, but do you know what? Between us, it won't really matter too much. So this wine, to start with, the Sancerre. So it's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's a 12.5%, so not too strong, quite light, which is typical of old worlds. A lot of old world wines are often quite light, or lighter than their Antipodean partners, or maybe the Californian versions. So what they're going for often is an expression of the grape, the real flavours of the grape in the old world, not being overpowered by too much sunshine and fruit that overpowers the real grape character, if you like. So a bit more sophisticated sometimes, you could say. Not always, but I think with the Sancerre, that's what they're going for, a kind of a more complex character. This one is from the Loire Valley, the spiritual home of the grape, as we discussed the other day, where the grape was really first found to flourish and take a big hold. And from there, the rest is history, really. So this particular one is made by a chap called Franck Millet and his wife Betty. Lovely French name, one of my favourites, of course. They're third generation in their family to farm these vineyards, to tend these vineyards. And they actually own these vineyards in a village called Bue, B-U-E, with an accent over it, which is about 4K outside of Sancerre itself. So still part of the appellation, but and close enough to the village they can pop in and get their baguettes in the morning, I'm sure. They've got about 23 hectares of vineyards, and they hand pick their grapes and select them carefully to make sure that they are exactly the right representation of what they want to say with their Sancerre. So anything that doesn't meet their criteria, it's gone. To be honest, probably what they'll do with grapes like that is they'll go to a collective and they'll get put into a Vin de France or something like that. These things happen with other grapes, they don't waste their crop, but the very best of their grapes will go into these wines. So with Sancerre and with the Loire Valley, this wine is grown on a chalky soil, so limestone, chalk, a bit of clay as well, as I mentioned the other day, I think, to you guys. And then there is differences between how a grape will turn out in terms of its flavour based on the soil. And the soil is one element of the terroir, as we discussed. So we'll go into that again in comparison with our next wine later. The vinification, or the winemaking method these guys use, they press them as soon as they've picked them. They allow the juice to settle, which means that they allow any stems or any small pieces of particle of grapes to settle to the bottom before they ferment. And the fermentation is kept at a very cool temperature, between 14 and 17 degrees. And what this means is it slows down the fermentation. So if you've ever done a home brew or something like that, you know that when alcohol is fermenting, it gets hot. So they climate control the fermentation to stay at these temperatures, 14 to 17 degrees, which prolongs the fermentation period. And what that means is they can ferment for up to 10 weeks, which is a really long long time for the wine to ferment. And what it does for the grape in terms of the flavour, it means that you're going to get a real true expression of the grape coming out. You're really going to get that full flavour of the grape and thus the expression of the terroir that the French want to come out in that wine. And they ferment in stainless steel. Why do they do it in stainless steel, not barrels? You know, a lot of you might think, French wines always chuck it into nice oak barrels, don't they? You know, and you've got this romantic image of all these oak barrels stacked up inside your guys' vineyards. It's not often the case with the Sancerre for sure. Sometimes Chardonnays are oaked in France for fermentation. Sancerre never. Always in stainless steel, and what that does, it imparts no flavour, no character other than the grape. So it's not spoiling the flavour of the grape. Nothing is added to that flavour. It's a pure expression, if you like, of the grape. I say they can do that for up to 10 weeks with this wine. This slower fermentation, as I say, will make sure that the grape is accurately represented when you taste this wine. You're going to taste what Franck Millet wanted you to taste, hopefully. Now, the other thing they do with this wine, and we've maybe talked about this in the bar occasionally, is they leave the lees in the wine and any other bits and pieces. So the lees is the dead yeast cells, or the remains of the dead yeast cells during the fermentation process that fall to the bottom of the wine the vats, and that is mixed together with, say, maybe some small bits of grape or stem haven't been got out at that point. Now they stir this lees through for 3 to 5 weeks during fermentation, and the aim of that is to impart some of the softness and the yeasty characteristics of this blend of stuff in the bottom of the wine vats into the wine itself. So in reality, what it does often is it softens the wine, gives it a rounded, more approachable nature. Doesn't flatten the acidity so much, it just gives it a more of a rounded, softer flavour. So, I think after all that, I'm going to pour some of this. Now, before you pour your wine, or before you drink it, make sure you've had a wee drink of water. You flush your mouth out. If you've just had a coffee or something like that, you want to make sure you've really flushed your mouth out, maybe with some plain bit of bread or a plain cracker or something like that, and some water. Then, let's pour this and have a wee look at it. Make sure your glass is nice and clean as well, guys, right? You don't want it to be warm, don't want it to be too cold, just right. The wine I took out of the fridge about 10 minutes ago, so it's coming up to room temperature ever so slightly, so it's probably about 7 or 8 degrees at the moment, this wine. So, let's have a look at it. In case Mano's watching this, you notice I've not used crystal glasses this time, Mano, so you can see the wine hopefully a bit better. I do listen, mate. So if you have a look at this colour here, I know it's quite difficult to see, probably on the camera, but it's got a nice clear look to it, a brilliant kind of golden colour, and I would say, if you can see it here, but it's like sparkly gold character, and it's got a bit of green going on in there as well, actually. Yeah, a nice kind of like vague green tint to it. Let's have a smell of it, give it a good swirl in the glass. And when you're swirling that, make sure you really give it a good going, because this wine's quite delicate wine in some people's opinion. Get your nose in there. Now, first off the bat, I'm getting a lot of citrus. A big hit of citrus in there, really mouth-watering citrus, actually. It's quite aromatic. Yeah, quite a delicate aromatic thing going on in the background, but a lot of citrus, you know, really ripe citrus smells in there. I'm going to give this a little taste now. Well, that's a classic Sancerre. So it's really crisp and refreshing, quite rounded in the mouth, actually. Got a long finish, a strong long finish on it. When you rate a wine, you say it's a strong or a weak kind of mouth feel. This is quite a strong mouth feel. It's quite vivid in the mouth and quite lively. Some stoniness to it, some minerality in the mouth as well. So kind of, yeah, kind of almost like you're tasting a liquid that's been sitting over stone, and it's imparted some of that mineral nature to the wine. really crisp, really clean, nice, lovely bit of citrus going on. It's still going on, but it's really clean in the back of the mouth there. Gets the mouth watering a bit as well, which is, you know, I love that in a white wine. If a white wine's been overcooked in terms of left on the vines too long often, as they have the habit of doing sometimes in Australia with some of their wines, in my opinion, they lose their acidity a bit and get sweeter and get more of the overripe fruit flavours. This is not overripe, it's crisp, it's young, it's still going, it's amazing actually. Lovely, lovely finish. Now this one, because of the acidity, you know, maybe the other day you remember me saying you don't typically age Sauvignons, straight Sauvignons, varietal, not typically aged, but that isn't to say you can't. And with this Sancerre, with the Domaine Franc Millet, and Janie with the one you've got and Claire with the one you've got, you guys, you know, those are wines that actually can be aged because of the structure of them, the acidity in them and the balance is amazing. You know, it's still so crisp and present in my mouth, that it means you can actually probably sit this one down for 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe this one's a 2019, so you could hang on to it, and it would still taste good. Often these wines are made to drink young, but this one would hold up for a few years yet, which is a sign of a pretty good white wine in my opinion. And in terms of what I would choose to eat with this, I would go goat cheese. I love goat cheese. It would be fantastic with the goat cheese, or maybe prawns. If you're a meat eater, definitely a pork dish, spicy dish would work as well with this. I think it's got that refreshing, crisp ability to cut through everything, so it would work with a bit of spice as well. Unfortunately, I have to put that one aside. It's going to hurt. I'll come back to that later, I think. We're going to move on to our second wine. Now this is the New Zealand Marlborough Yealands. All right, now you guys, I really hope you can see this. The sun is just ridiculously shiny today. It's too hot and sunny. What's going on? It's just not normal. It's not normal for Scotland. It doesn't seem. It seems to be these days, actually, doesn't it? I don't know what's going on with climate change. So we've got our Yealands. Now this you may have had in the bar. Lots of you like this wine. If you do like Sauvignon Blanc, you often come in and ask for a New Zealand, and this is the one we typically give people. We have a couple of others. We have a single variety, a single vineyard, which is exceptional in its own way as well. Now this one is a beautiful example of Marlborough. So it's 100% Sauvignon. It's vegan in as much as there are no animal products used to filtrate it. The French one isn't vegan. It's quite traditional, that wine. So this one is vegan. The ABV again is 12.5%. So again, they've gone on the lighter side, which I prefer, and I like that. If you watched my chat about the Malbec the other day, and then the ensuing video after that, you'll know that New World wines often give me a headache, and I love the Old World wines because they tend to not give me a headache because they're a bit lighter. This one goes in that tradition for me. Great, it's light, so you can drink a couple of these and you're not going to hurt too much the next day. So, as I said, this is Marlborough. Now, these guys have a few vineyards on the southern island, but up north, kind of northeast. What's the valley called? I think it's the Atawari Valley, Atawari or something, Awateri Valley, I'm going to say. You can check me on that one. The Awateri Valley, and that is a cooler climate, generally speaking, or relatively speaking for New Zealand. It's quite a cool climate there. I think their average summer temperature is about 24 degrees. They get a lot of sunshine, not much rain. So probably climate-wise, thinking about terroir and the differences, it's probably not a million miles away from what they see in the Loire Valley. The Loire Valley might get some hotter summers, actually, but I think in general, Loire Valley and Sancerre, they go for a slightly cooler microclimates as well, from what I can gather. So I think in terms of the weather, maybe not a million miles away from each other, these two bottles. And Marlborough, that region spreads over various different soil types. There's quite a lot of different stuff going on there. You've got some loose, you've got some old river silt soils there, you've got a lot of gravel soils there. Now this one, the Awateri Valley, is a gravel, I think a predominantly gravel soil. So what that means is it's a lot of good drainage, because they're not getting much rain, it's going to be dry with great drainage, compared to the Loire Valley, where there's clay in that soil. So whilst the limestone and the chalk will give nice drainage, the clay is going to hold on to some moisture. So there may be some difference in terms of what the terroir does to the grape and how the vines grow, and that might well affect the flavour. I'm sure there's been studies on that, and I'm sure there will be some arguments to say it does affect the flavour. Absolutely. In terms of how this wine's made, not dissimilar to Sancerre. So it's hand-picked again. Again, they will be checking the grapes to make sure the quality is good, and they'll only pick the good stuff and put this in these blends, or these wines, sorry. Again, they use stainless steel to ferment, but the big difference here is they don't leave this wine on the lees, and they don't stir it through lees for 3 to 5 weeks. They rack it off after 72 hours of pressing it and leaving it to cool in vats. They'll rack it off, and racking off just basically means filtering it off the lees. So they essentially filter at that point. So it's just the grape juice without any bits or pieces in it, or any of the dead pieces of the yeast floating around in it. So that will definitely affect the flavour, and we'll both, you and I will probably taste it, I think, when we compare these wines. So I'm gonna give it a little pour. Again, this one's been out of the fridge for about the same time as the Sancerre, so it's still quite nice and chilled. I know a lot of you love your wines in the bar really cold. I like my whites to pop up in temperature a little bit, but this is, yeah, it's just probably about 7 or 8 degrees now. Right, let's take a look at the colour. I'm going to bring my Sancerre back here so we can compare these colours, okay? So I'll bring it around in a minute for you to see. So this one, you can see that. Again, it's very pale, not as golden as the Sancerre, nor has it got that green tint to it, not so much. I can see a little bit of green, but it's not as much. It's paler actually, if anything, and less golden. It looks younger, even though these wines are both 2019. Wow, it's okay. The look pale, not quite as golden. I don't know if you'll be able to see the comparison really works for you guys, probably not, but for me I can see that the Sancerre is slightly darker, with kind of more of a sheen to it, almost more of it's catching the sun, it's glinting more, but again I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Let's have a little smell of it. Now a lot of you are familiar with this one, but you'll know you can smell it from here. You don't need to get your nose in this one, you can sit back here. I could walk out the room over there and go and see Annalie, and I can smell it. It's unbelievable. So you've got nettles in there, you've got a bit of blackcurrant smell going on in the background, you've got tropical fruit, guava, you've got all sorts of beautiful, evocative smells going on. Some herbs, yeah, some nice green herbs in there. Almost a bit of grass I can smell. I'm going to give this a taste, I can't wait any longer. Wow. Boom. That stuff explodes. It is so zingy and so mouth-watering. The acid in it is great. I mean, it tastes more acidic than the Sancerre. It really, really, really it zings around your mouth, almost makes your mouth tingle a bit when you drink this one. Really, really, really zingy, almost sherbety zingy, like in a nice way. So with the flavours on that one, yeah, very much green fruits, green citrus, green gooseberries in there, really, really getting some gooseberries in them, and definitely carrying through to the tropical fruits, the guavas still going on actually. Again, a nice finish. The finish is a bit more visceral, you know, it's more bite to the finish. It's not as refined or as smooth and as linear, I think, as the Sancerre. This is a bit more aggressive almost, in a nice way. I mean, it's very drinkable, absolutely drinkable, but it's, yeah, definitely a bit more whoosh going on than zen, calm finish, which is definitely, you get the Sunset is more zen, goes on and on, but it's lovely, but it's really mellow and nice. This is really green, really big flavour going on in my mouth, still going on. And that's due to the acidity. Now with this one, if you wanted to age it, because of the acidity, you probably could leave it a couple of years. Would it benefit that much? Don't know, but it would last because of the acidity. It will stand up. So if you got one in the fridge and you said, you know what, I need to take that out of the fridge, I need to hide it for a while because of the lockdown and you stop drinking, you put it away in your cellar, it's fine for a couple of years. And with this one, with food, if I were going to match this with food again, it's pretty similar, I would say. You know, again, goat's cheese or a sheep's cheese or something like that. So maybe the ossarati we have at the bar would work well with this. That's a Basque cheese. Yeah, well, goat's cheese would be lovely. A soft goat's cheese, really crisp, zingy goat's cheese would work lovely with this. And absolutely seafood. Pretty much any fish I can think I would cook, I would go for a glass with this. It would work, absolutely. So there we have it, guys. That's my take on these two. So the Sancerre and the Yealands. Now the Sancerre, just checking it's the right one, that is the right one. Oh yeah, the Sancerre, to wrap up, is more delicate and complex, more refined and less in your face, I would say, as an example of a Sauvignon. It's a classic old world Sauvignon, so they've taken a lot of time to think about the ground, the terroir, the weather, the climate, what they want that grape to taste like. The Yealands, they've only been growing this stuff since the 70s over there, and really it's only taken off in the last sort of, I don't know, decade or so. So they're still, it tastes like a young wine. It tastes like a wine that is full of youth and vigour, and you can taste what they're doing with that wine is aggressive and new world, and it's like, we're going to set a fire under the old world here, and you can taste that in it, but it is a very different style. The two are quite poles apart almost when you smell them. This is so refined, this is really big and bold and in your face. So if you want a big bold Sauvignon, a lot of guts and a lot of zinginess, the Marlborough's your one. If you want something refined, subtle and complex, it's going to last and to sort of linger over a bit more, then Sancerre's your one. Now, there's a lot of other Sauvignon Blancs out there. We haven't got time to do them today. But if you're interested in tasting some other Sauvignon Blancs, let us know. Drop us an email on iwantlejupe@gmail.com. And we're putting together a box of world Sauvignons, so probably 6 wines we're thinking from around the world. We've been talking to our suppliers to see what we can get hold of at the moment. So drop us an email if you're interested, and we will put together these 6 mixed Sauvignons. It won't be these 2 though, you've tasted these already. So it's not going to be these 2, it'll be different stuff in there. We're hoping to get something from South Africa. We're hoping to get something from Chile. As I said, the Chilean Sauvignons are beginning to really nip at the heels of the New Zealand style, so it'll be interesting to see what that's like. We'll be looking at California, etc., WA if possible. So let us know if you fancy that. I hope you enjoy your wines tonight. If you've got both the bottles open, put one in the fridge before you start pouring the other one, because you don't want to let it go off. Get some fish on the go, get your barbecue going, and guys, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you all soon.